Revealed, the terrifying curse of the sinister demonic dog that haunted their lives for 12 days, Jessica's heart raced as she hurried down the dimly lit streets of Maplewood, every flickering streetlight casting ominous shadows that danced at her heels. It had been 12 days since Mark vanished, leaving her to shoulder the weight of their stolen dreams and their son Eli's innocent questions. The laughter that once filled their home was swallowed by silence, and rumors whispered through the neighborhood like the chilling wind. The tales of the demonic dog, its glowing eyes and unearthly snarls, were nothing but a local legend, but that night, she doubted it. As Jessica turned the corner, she froze. There it was. A scraggly dog, more phantom than creature, its eyes shone an unnatural yellow, reflecting her fear back at her. It snarled, low and menacing, teeth bared in a ghastly grin. Chills crawled up her spine as the air thickened with a palpable dread. The creature, an echo of betrayal, seemed more real in that moment than her memories of Mark. Panic surged within her. Was this beast a curse on Maplewood or a grotesque reminder of her life's unraveling? The days dragged on in agonizing solitude. Each late shift at the diner felt like an eternity, filled with watchful eyes and hollow smiles that masked the truth. As she walked home, the dog reappeared, lurking, a dark omen that rattled her very soul. Eli would wake, trembling, whispering about the monster outside. She could almost see it lurking beneath their perfectly manicured lawns, ready to strike. Jessica's feverish mind spun tales of betrayal, not just from Mark, but from an entire community hiding dark secrets behind their white picket fences. She reached out to neighbors, a desperate attempt to forge connections, to find solace. But each conversation felt like stepping into a spider's web, thick and suffocating. Their friendly waves and fake smiles sent chills through her, whispers reverberated in the air. Mark had been wrapped up in their lives before abandoning them, and now the truth sat heavier than ever. She could feel it, the betrayal intermingling with the growing shadows. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined to save Eli from the horror waiting just outside their door, she contacted the local authorities. They brushed her off like a heady dream, leaving her stricken. Despair clawed at her mind. What if Mark's betrayal had opened up something worse? The spectral dog grew bolder, its growls echoing her fears, stealing her sleep, taunting both mother and son. The realization dawned that this spectral predator wasn't just an animal or a mere figment but a reflection of the festering sins of her neighbors. On a knife's edge of desperation, Jessica decided she had to stand up not just for Eli but for herself. She would confront this darkness that circled them, this creature that thrived on her fear. As night fell once more, she steeled herself, knowing that something grim was waiting for her in the shadows. With apprehension, she turned to face the eerie glow piercing the darkness ahead, a malicious witness to her struggle. How far would she go to protect her son when the evil loomed larger than she ever imagined? Jessica's breath hitched as she stepped closer to the glowing eyes. The night air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decay, suffocating in its intensity. She could feel the weight of the neighborhood watching from the shadows, too afraid to intervene or too guilty to care. The nerves in her fingers tingled, a warning not to get too close. But Eli needed her. She wouldn't let him share in her terror. The snarl of the dog grew louder, reverberating through her body like the crack of thunder. "Get away!" she shouted, surprising herself with her own boldness. The dog seemed momentarily stunned, its eyes narrowing, calculating her every move. Jessica's heart pounded in her chest, each thump a desperate plea against the rising tide of fear. She took another step, then another, her feet feeling as if they were dragging through thick mud. "Leave us alone!" she cried, her voice slicing through the silence. The air crackled with tension, and in that moment, Jessica felt something snap inside her. This wasn't just about her. It was about the generations that had come before her, the echoes of troubled souls lost to the darkness. And then in an instant the dog lunged. Jessica recoiled, but instead of feeling teeth biting into her flesh, there was a rush of cold air that enveloped her. The creature stopped inches away, those glowing eyes boring into hers with an intensity that seeped deep into her very core. It was searching. Seeking something it could devour. Panic surged as she scrambled away, stumbling backwards into the street. She glanced back at the house, knowing Eli was safely inside, yet the fear clawed at her throat like the demon hound. In the distance, she heard the whispers of her neighbors, fragmented voices murmuring indistinctly, as if they were somehow complicit in the terror. Then she remembered the stories, the secrets they told in hushed voices about lost children, sudden disappearances, strange noises at night. The town had buried its sins deep, but now they were clawing their way back to the surface. Was this creature tied to Mark's fate? Had his betrayal unleashed this horror? A rush of adrenaline pushed her onwards. She sprinted down the street when suddenly, the dog let out a monstrous howl that sliced through the night like a knife. Jessica skidded to a halt. With her back to the glowing menace, she struggled to calm her breath. No matter how fast her heart raced, she was still its target. Was it really just a dog? Or was it a harbinger, a creature born from the shadows of Maplewood's unchecked sins? Before she could answer, the growling morphed into a low, chilling laughter that reverberated off the walls of her mind. It was an echo of everything she had endured, because deep down, this creature knew her fears. She turned on her heel, mustering the courage to face it again, the far-off glimmer of streetlights shining like weak protectors. But the dog was gone. Jessica felt the icy grip of dread rising in her stomach. It wasn't just the dog she had to fear, it was the silence of the night, the darkness in her own heart, and the truth hidden in the shadows of Maplewood. "Where are you?" she whispered. The whispering returned, cloaked in malice, as the ground beneath her seemed to pulse with hidden threats. Deep in her bones, she knew she hadn't seen the last of the demonic dog. It was almost as if the darkness had eyes, waiting patiently to reveal more. And then she heard it, the sound of scratching at her own front door. The scratching intensified, a relentless rhythm echoing through the stillness as Jessica's heart raced like a runaway train. She pressed her back against the cool wood of the front porch, her palms slick with sweat. The noise clawed at her sanity, turning sweet memories of home into something grotesque. Eli's face flashed in her mind, innocent and trusting, and now she was the one who had to protect him. "Stay inside," she shouted, her voice almost cracking. She couldn't let Eli be pulled into her nightmare. The scratching paused, and for a moment, there was silence. It felt like a trap, a dangerous lull before a storm. "What is going on?" Eli's voice floated through the door, small and frightened. "Nothing. Just stay put," she managed, even though she could feel the weight of something dark pressing down on her. The scratching resumed, fierce and insistent, and with it came a low growl that reverberated right through her bones. She wanted to run, to scream, to flee this cursed place and take Eli with her. But fear held her rooted to the spot. What if the dog was waiting outside, too? What if it wasn't just the dog? Taking a deep breath, Jessica stepped toward the door. The cold air felt electric against her skin. She gripped the knob, trembling, conflicted. Should she open it? Then she thought of her neighbors. Of their hollow-eyed stares and murmurs that lingered like a dark fog. What were they hiding? Was the creature merely a symptom of a greater evil that festered in Maplewood? She reached for the door again, heart pounding in her throat. Another howl sliced through the air, forcing her to recoil. The fear felt like a living thing, wrapping around her throat. There was no reason to be brave now, was there? But then, a voice echoed from within. Low, growling, yet oddly familiar. "Let me out. Eli." A jolt of panic coursed through her. Eli. What do you mean? Let me out. I can help. Jessica's hands shook against the doorknob. What could he do? She had been the one who defaced the monster outside. She was supposed to be the protector. But more scratching, this time on the window, drew her attention. She turned, and for a moment, she thought she saw a flash of fur in the darkness, a shadow blending in with the wallpaper of night. Jessica. His voice was urgent now, full of desperation. Please. You have to trust me. The howls echoed again, closer this time, vibrating through the very foundation of the house. It was a beast unleashed, one that thrived on the fears and sins of Maplewood. Jessica felt the breath of darkness as it seeped into her bones. She could not be trapped. Not like this. Stay away. She screamed back, the fear breaking her with every word. You can't go out there. But deep down, uncertainty gnawed at her courage. Had her need for protection taken them both into the abyss? What was Eli really capable of? There was a new tension in the air, and the scratching was joined by a chorus, a sound like whispers, growing louder, circling the house like vultures. A sudden realization struck her, maybe she wouldn't have to face it alone. Eli, if you can hear me, she took a deep breath. You need to tell me everything you know. The growling outside paused. The silence that followed hung in the air like a thick fog. Jessica felt a shift, a long-held secret unraveling somewhere in the night. Jessica, there is something I haven't told you. Eli's voice trembled. Something they don't want us to know. Just then, the door rattled violently as if someone on the other side was desperate to get in. Jessica's breath caught as dread filled her. What awaited her in the shadows? Unraveled secrets of Maplewood? Or something far more sinister? As the door quivered beneath the pressure, an urgent thought shot through her. Was Eli truly her salvation, or was something darker lurking within, waiting for the chance to be unleashed? She needed to know. The door slammed against the frame, rattling the very bones of the house. Jessica's heart thudded violently in her chest, a deafening rhythm of dread. She glanced at the window, where the scratching had changed into relentless pounding, like fists shattering her fragile peace. Shadows loomed outside, shifting as something large and menacing prowled so close she could almost sense its hot breath against the glass. Eli, please, what are you hiding from me? Her voice broke, desperation clawing at her words. Jessica, it's not what you think. Eli's voice trembled, low and tortured. She could hear the unmistakable scrape of nails against something unseen, the promise of violence boiling just beyond the door. What do you mean? She challenged, her voice a fragile thread weaving through the chaos. What is going on? What's out there? They can't know I told you I shouldn't have, but you have to understand, it's not just a dog. Bursting through her confusion, a sudden noise rippled through the air, the sickening sound of jaws snapping just outside her line of vision. Fear clamped down on her throat like a vice. A low, snarling growl vibrated closer now, filled with hunger and contempt. Jessica. Eli pressed, his words strained, almost feral. You need to trust me. Let me out. She hesitated. Nothing in her had ever prepared her for this moment. Could she truly believe a child who seemed so different? Who could speak in voices that rattled her very perception of reality? What had Eli become? Why should I? She shot back, her pulse a hammering drum. What are you? Before she could finish, a deafening crash shattered her thoughts. The heavy thud of something bulldozing into the porch echoed in her ears, leaving only panic and despair in its wake. Glass shattered nearby, sending shards like deadly rain onto the floor. Jessica instinctively backed away, her throat dry, her breath escaping her lips in sharp gasps. The knocking had stopped, the world beyond the door falling eerily silent. But an oppressive weight lingered, a pregnant pause before calamity. The growl sounded a mere whisper, now a promise too soft, too menacing. Listen. Eli urged again, desperation cracking his voice. They come for the ones who stay in the dark, it's been 12 nights. They hunger for the sins of Maplewood, and no one can escape their grip. Her heart raced, chasing each word he uttered. 12 nights? What horror had unfolded in that time? What sins lingered in shadows? She glanced back at the windows, ice pooling deep inside her. Outside, the form shifted, a silhouette gliding through the smog of night. The windows trembled. It was drawing closer. Jessica took a tentative step toward the door. Eli, if I let you out, are you safe? I can help. You won't be alone anymore. Something shattered against the porch wall, an explosion of wood and debris shaking her resolve. The door creaked ominously, rattling in its frame as if something outside was testing her defenses, growing impatient. Trust me, Jessica. I'm not like them. The primal howl erupted from the darkness, drowning out her thoughts, a sound unlike anything she had ever heard. It carried with it the bitterness of despair, the haunting inevitability of doom. She felt her back press against the wall, every instinct screaming to run. There was danger in the air, thick and electric. Maybe Eli was right, hiding wouldn't save them. But was her fear justifiable? Or was she another victim bound by their shadows? Eli, she whispered, half a step away from unlocking the threshold to whatever horror awaited. If I open this door, you better be telling the truth. In that moment of hesitation, the entity from outside took shape. A monstrous form slinked into view, glowing eyes piercing through the veil of night. It was colossal, sleek muscle covering sinew, jagged teeth glinting like knives ready to devour. Jessica steadied herself, gripping the doorknob tighter, feeling the pull of darkness swirl around her. Jessica! Eli cried, his voice climbing in urgency. You need to choose now. With a surge of courage, she took a breath. Whatever darkness loomed outside, something deeper waited within her. Was this the gateway to salvation or damnation? The doorknob felt cool against Jessica's clammy palm. A shiver ran down her spine as the growl crescendoed outside, vibrating through the walls. Uncertainty consumed her, gnawing at her resolve. Eli was desperate, but what had he truly become? Could she trust his frantic pleas against the beast that waited hungrily just beyond the door? Jessica, Eli's voice broke through her racing thoughts. I can't hold it back much longer. You're running out of time. She gulped, impulse battling fear. The creature's form twisted in the shadows, its eyes unwavering, reflecting a hunger that sent icy tendrils snaking through her veins. The thought of opening the door burrowed into her, pulling her closer to the brink. In a shaky breath, she responded, if I open this, I need you to promise me you'll protect me. Her voice drifted, uncertain yet defiant. I promise. Eli gasped. You'll see the truth. Just let me out. The cold silence was shattered with another violent crash against the porch, wood splintered sprayed like shrapnel across the floor. A roar rippled through the night, primal and hellish, plunging Jessica's heart deeper into terror, suffocating her thoughts. Open the door. Eli shouted, his face twisting in desperation. Now, Jessica. Rage surged through her veins, igniting something raw and fierce. She stepped back, ready to bolt if necessary. But before she could choose, the door rattled hard, slamming against her with enough force to knock the air from her lungs. From the corner of her eye, she saw it, a grotesque shape, yanking against the door frame. Long limbs, stained in darkness, clawed desperately, raking against raw wood. Jessica jumped back, breath hitching. Jessica. Eli's tone shifted, terrifyingly sharp. It's breaking in. Let me out. Now. Each second felt like an eternity, memories of laughter, of warmth split open by this horror. But what warmth could Eli truly give? Desperation was swallowing her whole. The growling crescendoed, more savage and demanding than ever. The thing was relentless. Raging against the trap, it screeched, nails scraping as the door quivered, threatening to succumb to its force. Eli, what are they? She cried over the din, uncertainty looming like a heavy fog. It's the curse of Maplewood. It feeds on darkness. Our darkness. His words echoed painfully in her mind. Our darkness, she repeated softly. It stirred the secrets nestled inside her, whispered remnants of guilt, fears buried deep. Another crash, and she felt her composure fracture, like glass underfoot. Heart racing, she closed her eyes briefly, identifying the rasp of breath behind her. The thing waited, lusting for understanding, wrapping her tighter in dread. Jessica. Eli's plea hung in the air, thick with urgency. You don't have to do this. We can escape, but I need you to stand by me. Trust me. With a sudden clarity, Jessica felt the weight of choice bear down on her shoulders. What if you're wrong? What if you're just like them? He interrupted, his voice fierce. I'm not. I've seen what they do. I'm fighting against it, Jessica. You know me. In that moment, the beast outside howled one last time, savage, triumphant. The door shuddered as Eli's primal cry surged through her. She had to do something. Okay. Her decision surged out of her, the words were barely breath before her shaking hand twisted the knob, the door creaked, a portal to uncertain fate. As it swung open, the shadows seized the moment, darkness crashing in like a wave. What she saw upon opening that door would shatter her world, for behind Eli, the true horror awaited, an unveiling of unspeakable terror that would engulf them both, and in that moment, Jessica's scream was swallowed by the night. When the shadows receded, would there be anything left of their humanity? Or would the dark reveal a truth too terrifying to accept? Jessica's scream died like the flicker of a candle snuffed by a sudden wind. The darkness rolled in, heavy and oppressive, wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. As her vision adjusted, the faintest glow flickered ahead, an eerie illumination that cast grotesque shadows across the walls. Eli's face was splattered with something dark, blood or shadow, she couldn't tell. His eyes, once familiar, looked wild, devoid of their warmth. Jessica, you shouldn't have done that. He gasped, stumbling a step back. Panic clawed at his features, and the creature behind him quivered violently, a mass of hyperactive limbs and jagged teeth. The beast lunged forward, a monstrous blur, and Jessica's heart bucked in her chest. She stepped back, colliding with the door just as it swung fully open, casting her into a deeper darkness. It surged forward, teeth snapping, but Eli threw himself in its path. No! He shouted, his voice raw and frantic. She watched, breath caught, as Eli tackled the creature, the two of them colliding in a sickening thud. Jessica's instincts screamed at her to flee, but her feet remained glued to the floor, awash in terror. Run! Eli's voice echoed through the void, strained and resonant. His body, once strong and steady, began to falter under the weight of the creature. The shadows twisted and turned, closing in on her. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she fought the instinct to turn back. Instead, she steadied herself and forced her gaze to stay on Eli, wrestling with the beast. It's too strong. He shouted, distress amplifying with each word. I can't. With a roar, the creature flung Eli aside, sending him crashing against the porch railing. He sprawled helplessly, groaning. She could barely breathe as she watched him struggle to rise. The monster turned its horrid, dripping snarl toward her, its eyes now pooling with an insatiable hunger. In that terrible moment of connection, she felt its gaze dig into her soul, as if peeling back layers of her fears and regrets. Her mother's voice flashed in her mind, warning her never to let fear dictate her actions. Desperation clawed at her guts, pulling her closer to that edge of resolve. She remembered the stories, each one darker than the last, warning of creatures that revealed our inner demons. Eli! She screamed, heart racing, ready to step into the darkness if it meant saving him. The air grew thick with hatred, and she could almost taste the despair. Jessica, run! He bellowed again, struggling to push himself up. But the creature lunged, forcing her to recoil, a chain of ice locking around her heart. "No!" she cried out. "I won't leave you." The ground shifted beneath her feet, a tremor jolting through the hardwood floor, as the entity pulled back, its growl shifting into something low and guttural. Courage mixed with terror, and she took a step forward. "I trust you, Eli." As the words left her mouth, the shadows shifted. She felt the fury rising, swirling through her veins, the darkness she had hidden her entire life. Maybe that was it. Maybe the curse could be broken, for it fed on their fear, their guilt, their very essence. Eli raised his gaze, the fight flickering back to life within him. "Then we face it together." The creature stopped abruptly, as if sensing the shift. The air crackled with tension, the walls vibrating with a low hum. Jessica felt heat pooling around her hands, raw energy pooling at her fingertips, waiting to be released, but the beast lunged again, faster this time, its jaws snapping inches away from her face. Jessica gasped as she jerked backward, instinctually summoning the power thrumming inside her. "Do it!" Eli shouted, desperation fueling his voice. As the creature charged forward, she thrust her hands toward it, heart pounding. In that moment, would she become the weapon against the very darkness that had haunted their lives? The first spark ignited, resulting in a shockwave, half blinding her. When the dust settled, both she and the creature stood still, a tense standoff brewing between them. Eli's eyes widened in shock, but this was no ordinary battle. Now, they would unearth a deeper truth than they had ever known. What would happen if she gave in to the darkness swirling inside her? Would it be their salvation or their doom? The beast hesitated, awaiting her next move, as an uncertain silence wrapped around them, thickening the air. But the mockery of hope ignited far too soon. With Eli at her side and horror honing in, only one question remained: could she wield this power without consuming herself? The world around Jessica began to pulse with a dissonant energy. Shadows slithered across the walls, quivering with anticipation. The creature stood there, swaying slightly, as if confused by her sudden resolve. Eli remained at her side, the desperation in his eyes morphing into something unrecognizable, a mix of hope and dread. "Keep your focus, Jessica," he urged, fearing the flicker of uncertainty that hung in the air. The darkness was a living thing, wrapping tendrils around their minds. She could feel it tugging, calling her deeper into the abyss. The beast growled low, a sound that reverberated through her bones. Its jagged teeth glimmered in the dim light, unforgiving and predatory. Without warning, it charged, a blur of fury aimed straight for Jessica's heart. "Now!" Eli roared, shaking her from her trance. Jessica thrust her hands outward, feeling raw energy ignite between her fingers, coalescing into a blinding light. A beam shot forth, connecting with the creature in an explosion that lit the night like a burst of fireworks. The shockwave knocked her off her feet, slamming her onto the floor. As her vision cleared, a horrifying sight met her eyes. The creature flailed and hissed, writhing in the radiant light but not retreating. Instead, it emitted a chilling howl that made her insides squirm. Eli was on his knees, bleeding and visibly shaken, helpless to do anything but watch. "Jessica!" he cried, panic slicing through his voice. But there was something captivating about the creature's gaze, an unsettling amalgamation of her own fears and desires. Each flicker of its eyes revealed a mirrored reflection of her darkest thoughts, her insecurities, the failures, the shame. It was as if it was feeding off her essence, pulling her closer. Jessica's heart raced, but in this strange moment, the terror morphed into clarity. "You can't have me!" she yelled, as the energy surged brighter. She thrust her hands forward again, refusing to let it twist her into a victim. And then, just like that, a scream erupted from the beast, a sound unlike anything she'd ever heard. It wasn't just a cry of anger, it was mingled with fear, a desperate plea as the radiance engulfed it entirely, drawing in the darkness like a moth to a flame. But the light didn't extinguish the creature. Instead, it revealed something unexpected. Within the swirling shadows, something shifted. Was it a face? Jessica squinted. The illumination flickered, and for a mere heartbeat, she saw glimpses of other people, faces she recognized. Friends, family, all lost like her. The truth twisted in her gut like a dagger. "Fight it, Jessica!" Eli shouted, his voice straining against the growing tension. He struggled to rise, but the shadows seized him, wrapping around his limbs like chains. "No!" She screamed, instinctively stepping toward him, the energy in her hands flickering uncertainly. "Stay focused. Don't let it take you." Eli's desperate words anchored her, grounding her resolve. With her heart pounding, she turned her troubled gaze back toward the beast. It was now a swirling mass of darkness and despair, every part of her questioning how to wield this power without losing herself. The darkness beckoned her closer, whispering promises of comfort, security and surrender. Could she wield this light enough to save Eli without drowning in its depths? Suddenly, deep within the creature's howl, she heard a familiar voice, a haunting echo of her mother, warning her once again as it had years ago. "Face your fears, Jessica." With newfound determination, she drew from the well of her memories, thoughts crystallizing. Every joyful moment, every act of bravery flickered into the light, melding into her very essence. The shadows recoiled slightly, sensing the change, furious and desperate as Jessica took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of light inside her toward the beast. But just then, the darkness surged, moments agonizingly slow, as the creature lunged once more. Eli's voice faltered as the shadows pulled tighter around him, forcing him into the cold embrace of despair. The energy swirled faster, grasping at her heart. Could she cast aside her doubts and wield the light to bind the beast? Or would it consume her, dragging Eli into the abyss with it? As the creature lunged, the world around them dimmed. And in that moment of dread, one question sliced through the chaos: would power be their saving grace or their final undoing? The creature's howl pierced the air, a sound so chilling that it sent tremors through Jessica's very being. The darkness surged, crashing against her like a wave. Eli's voice echoed in her mind, a desperate plea that spurred her on, even as fear gripped her throat. With every ounce of will, she redirected the blinding light, sparking anew from the deepest corners of her heart. But the shadows fought back, curling and twisting around her, testing her resolve. The room pulsed, the walls contributing to the chaos, vibrating with the weight of despair, the darkness eager to consume all hope. "Jessica! Keep it together." Eli's voice was fading, buried beneath the din of the haunting cries. The moment felt eternal, each heartbeat mocking her growing uncertainty. Desperate, she turned her focus inward, recalling every moment that had forged her fears. The memories materialized like a flickering film, playing scenes of laughter, love, but also pain, friends lost, opportunities missed. The shade of the creature morphed into silhouettes of those she had graciously let slip from her grasp. "No!" she screamed, shaking off the intrusive thoughts. With adrenaline surging through her veins, she concentrated once more. The light brightened, cascading the room in brilliance, but Eli's struggle pulled her back. He was almost gone, a mere silhouette being swallowed by the shadows. The creature thrashed violently, sensing its grip loosening with each beat of Jessica's heart. An explosion echoed as she launched her mind into the fray. She felt the light connecting her to Eli, the bond of their friendship strong, tethering them together against the rising tide of darkness. In that moment, clarity flooded her. "Eli, don't give up. I'm right here." But as she spoke, doubt seeped in. How could she save them both? Then, through the haze, another whisper. A voice from her past. "Jessica, trust in your strength. You have the light." Her mother's haunting words revitalized her spirit, igniting a spark that pushed the shadows back. The creature wailed once more, this time with an echo of anger and fright. This was the moment to make her stand. Jessica thrust her arms forward, directing the energy toward Eli like an anchor. "You are not alone." The shadows roared in defiance, swirling wildly, but faltered as Jessica's light connected with Eli. He gasped, suddenly erupting free of their hold, bathed in brilliant radiance, but it was then she noticed the creature's form. It shifted again, morphing into a twisted version of Eli, its eyes mirroring his but filled with malice. Panic coursed through her as it lunged, the creature's jaws widening, thirsty for the light she had just summoned. Jessica. Eli's voice strained, erupting into urgency. Look out. She barely had time to react, instinctively summoning a shield of light around herself. The force of the creature's strike collided violently with her barrier, sending shockwaves that rattled the very foundation of their reality. The shadows boiled around them, furious. They howled like banshees, drowning out every rational thought, every flicker of hope. Just a little more. Jessica whispered to herself, the incantation spilling from her lips, weaving the energy like a tapestry of defiance. With each word, the light intensified, but so did the creature's roars. It was not just an abomination, it was a reflection of all their insecurities made flesh. You are nothing. Jessica screamed into the void, pouring every ounce of her being into the light. In that moment, the air crackled with energy and the darkness yearned to envelop her. But something shifted. A faint crack in the creature's form began to show, revealing the memories it had stolen. Friends, family, it was as if each fragment was reminding her of the cost of their fear. Fight it. Eli rallied, struggling to stand, his eyes aflame with defiance. Will they overcome the creature's pleas, or will their fears pull them back into darkness? As the tension reached a precipice, a blinding flash erupted from Jessica's core, illuminating everything. But just as the light soared to engulf the creature, would it be the answer they needed, or simply the beginning of an even darker journey? The blinding light swallowed the room, its brilliance forcing the shadows to recede, but then it flickered, wavering like an uncertain flame. Jessica's heart raced, her breath catching in that instant of brilliance. Everything felt suspended. But the creature roared louder, its piercing cry reverberating against the walls, shaking Jessica's very resolve. The twisted form doubling, Eli snarled, eyes ablaze with malice, its very existence a twisted mockery of their friendship. Inside her, doubt clutched like an icy fist. Stay strong. Eli shouted, grounding her amid the chaos. You can't let it take you. Jessica focused on the flickers of light, desperate to summon the strength within. The shadows writhed at the periphery, grasping hungrily at the fading light, but she clung to the memory of warmth, her mother's embrace, her friend's laughter. With each recollection, her heart ignited afresh, driving the dark tendrils back. No. You're not Eli. She screamed, voice piercing through the swirling miasma. It felt like her words were incantations, powerful enough to shatter the illusion. The creature lunged again, fangs bared, filling the air with the stench of decay. The very sound made her grip the energy tighter, summoning the light into a singular beam aimed straight for the heart of the horrific beast. Simon. Eli yelled. Together. They connected, an unbreakable thread soaring through the chaos, and Jessica felt the surge as Eli matched her force. That tether sparked a resonating hum that pulsed defiantly through the room, banishing shadows, forcing them to retreat, realizing this light was not so easily extinguished. But the creature screeched, a sound laced with an eerie madness as it flailed, desperately trying to regain its hold. The twisted version of Eli shuddered, its form cracking, revealing glimpses of the boy Jessica had known, conflicted faces flickering in and out of being. A heart-wrenching moment. Could they be losing someone dear? Focus. Eli shouted again, his own voice straining under the pressure. The demand propelled Jessica forward. I'm not afraid of you. She cried. The words cascaded from her lips like an incantation. They clawed against the surface of the creature like a hand trying to pry open a sealed coffin, begging to be heard. It lashed out in sheer desperation. Then Jessica sensed it, the beast wasn't merely a predator. It fed on despair, and by fearing it, they were bolstering its strength. I refuse to be your victim. Jessica declared. With a roar that seemed to echo off the walls, she redirected the light, congealing it into a blazing spear aimed directly at the creature. The moment it struck, a deafening smack echoed as the creature shrieked, collapsing into itself. Resounding waves of light guttered through the room, scattering remnants of darkness as panic kissed its edges. But as the creature began to dissolve, Jessica felt an unshakable chill creep in. A sinister whisper lingered in the air, coiling around her throat, tightening with suffocating familiarity. "Her light has made her weak," it hissed, reverberating through the air like a sonorous bell of doom. "This is just the beginning." Her heart jumped in horror, but amidst the turmoil of collapsing shadows, Jessica caught a glimpse of a doorway, rimming with dark energy at the far end of the room, the last vestige of a cursed world. Before she could process, Eli's fingers gripped her wrist. "We can't stay here." He was right. They had survived this battle, but the war was far from over. The whispers clawed at her mind, a promise of dread. "Do you hear that?" she whispered, shivering as they stepped closer to the portal. "It's not over, is it?" he asked, his voice a blend of fear and determination, and in that moment, they understood, darkness hungered still, and whatever lay beyond that door would test everything they thought they had conquered. What new terror awaited them on the other side? They exchanged one last glance of hesitant resolve, hearts pounding like a war drum. As they crossed the threshold, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that they had unwittingly opened a Pandora's box of horrors yet to come. But what kind of nightmare lurked behind the door, ready to claim them? Jessica and Eli stepped through the threshold into a twisted version of the Maplewood they once knew. The landscape morphed before their eyes. Houses stood in disarray, paint peeling like the memories they wished to forget. The sky hung heavy, pregnant with shadows that seemed to pulse, almost breathing with malevolence. "Where are we?" Eli's voice trembled, laced with a mixture of fear and wonder. This must be the darkness. "The place where all the hidden things dwell," Jessica whispered, her heart racing. Together, they took hesitant steps forward, shadows chasing them as if eager to snatch away their light. The whispers surrounded them, twisting their names into echoes of despair. "Jessica." "Eli," the voices crooned, crawling on her skin. "I won't let it make us afraid," Jessica said fiercely, summoning the strength she had discovered in the fight against the demonic dog. Each step felt deliberate as the fog of uncertainty clung close. "We're here together." Eli nodded, his young face set in determination. In each other, they found the light that could still shimmer even in this wretched place. As they moved deeper, shapes began to coalesce in the gloom, figures from their past, faces and forms that distorted from memory into nightmare. Friends lost, neighbors with hollow eyes, shadows of those they once trusted began circling them, glittering with malice. "Why are you here?" a voice hissed from the throbbing darkness. It was rooted in familiarity but twisted, much like the entity they had just vanquished. "It's the curse!" cried Eli, anger surging. "You can't take any more from us." Jessica felt his conviction, urging her forward. "We're not afraid of you," she added fiercely. But her words hung in the air like stubborn silk. The shadows thickened, and their advance slowed as tendrils reached for them, pulling at their clothes, eager to drag them down into despair. Suddenly, the air shifted, growing thick with an atmosphere of dread. "You think light can exist here?" cackled a figure they both recognized. It morphed into the face of a neighbor they had known since the beginning, a woman consumed by unspoken secrets, her eyes swirling pools of sadness. "You're here because you are bound by your darkness. It is in you as it is in us." Jessica's heart sank. "No. We want to become like you. Come join us, Jessica," it taunted, its voice slithering through the air, weaving shadows that buzzed like thick bees. "What's the point of fighting? You're nothing without the darkness within." Biting back tears, Jessica clung to Eli's hand. "The truth is that we're stronger together. Love and light outshine your darkness." And as she spoke those words, a pulse rippled through the air, igniting warmth within her chest. Light erupted from within, illuminating the shadows, forcing them to retreat with cries of anguish. The faces flickered and distorted, not fully realizing that they could not snuff out the flicker of hope Jessica and Eli ignited. Eli found his voice interweaving with hers, "You don't own us. We choose who we are." They stood resolutely, back to back, resolute against the encroaching darkness. The whispers fell silent, feeling the weight of truth and defiance between them. Suddenly, the shadows withdrew, revealing a sliver of light that pierced through the gloom, a reminder that the dawn always follows the darkest hours. It sparkled, beckoning them forward, whispering promises of sanctuary. "Do we go?" Eli asked, his voice small. "Yes." Jessica nodded, hope thrumming between them. "We take the light, and we leave this darkness behind." They charged forward, and the moment they crossed into the sanctuary of light, it enveloped them. They felt the soft pulses of warmth on their skin and the heaviness of despair dissipate, giving way to freedom. A moment later, they stood in their yard, the sun rising anew over Maplewood, casting golden rays that quenched the darkness, illuminating every crevice. Slowly, colors crept back, vibrant and alive, a world now free from the curse that had haunted them. Eli jumped up, spinning with joy, his laughter filling the air, the sound pure like a spring breeze. Jessica's heart soared with him, a melody resonating with relief. They had faced shadows that shouldn't exist but emerged into the light, still whole and filled with life. "Mom, look! The flowers!" Eli exclaimed, crouching down to examine the blooms peeking through the soil. Jessica knelt beside him, her heart swelling. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" Everything felt different now, lighter, unshackled from the weight of secrets. "We did it together." Eli turned to her, bright-eyed and fierce, echoing the strength they had conjured together through the darkest hours. A sudden wind swept through, rustling the leaves and whispering promises of new beginnings. She kissed Eli's forehead, a soft promise of protection. There would always be shadows lurking, but now they would face them, united. As she looked out over Maplewood, she felt lighter, terms of darkness fading into distant memories. Maybe one day they would fade entirely, for now, it was enough to know they had triumphed. "Let us promise to always choose the light," she said, taking her son's small hands in hers. Eli nodded, firmly squeezing her palms. "Together." And they both knew no matter how many trials awaited, with love guiding them, they could overcome anything. This was the beginning of their story anew. They stood together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next. Now that you've witnessed the heart-stopping conclusion of Jessica and Eli's terrifying journey, don't miss out on what lies ahead. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support like never before. And don't keep this to yourself. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.